Hey there, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always with some ideas and insights that you absolutely have to pay attention to when you're growing and scaling your business. So what we're going to talk about today is the 3 things that you must do to create superstars as your managers. And the biggest challenge that we see our clients have is that hiring and training effective leadership that can help them and support them so that they can really work on their business rather than in their business all the time. So that's the biggest crux. And when you think about it, what do you really need to pass off that sort of responsibility? It's having really effective people who you trust, who can lead strategy, who can actually replace you in your current role with the rest of your team and do it even better than you are right now. So when we think about this, most of our clients are CEOs, they're business leaders, they're business owners, small business owners who are really good at what they do. And at some point they needed more people because their impact was getting larger. So they just hired people, but a lot of times there's no effective organization within that team that it can actually make every single person on that team be that A player that knocks it out of the park, who thinks strategically, who shows up, above and beyond, who's really that person who you can trust with everything you do. And leaders at every level are absolutely the key to make that happen. So training effective leadership can really support you so that you don't have to keep working in your business all the time. So, when you think about your existing team, even when they're good people, most likely who you have right now are doers. So they get stuff done that you hand them, but what's really missing is that people, like I said just a minute ago, people are strategic. They can think with you. They think ahead of you. They know what needs to get done to get to that next level of business. And they don't need to ask you questions 24/7 because they have the right context and they have the right skill set, culture, attitude to actually do things very reliantly on their own. So what's really missing here is the glue that ties it all together. So right now, generally, it's all up to you. If you don't fix everything, if you don't make sure there's strategy, if you don't delegate everything, it's not happening or not happening consistently enough so that you can trust them. So, most of the time what we see that our clients who've been in business for a long time, who have a great product or service, like everything is generally fine on the surface, but their day looks like a 90-10, as in 90% of their day is spent working in their business, making sure everything is rolling, everybody does what they said they would or should, and then maybe 10% is spent on actually leading the company, working on the business, making sure that they build the right relationships, that they network, that they hire up, that they lead their leaders, that they make sure that all the things are happening that are so crucial to get the business to the next level. Because what it should look like instead, so we talked about 90-10, what it should be is a 5-95, where 5% of your time is spent on only what you are best at, the stuff that only you can do, and then 95% of that other stuff is on everybody else. So you only spend your time on the 5% of stuff that only you can do. And everything else is not on you. Instead, what most of our clients do is they fight fires all day, they fix mistakes, they jump in, they get their hands dirty, they're very hands-on, and a lot of times it makes them feel like, and this is a mindset thing, that they're very, very busy, that they're contributing at a high level, that they have control over the business because they're very busy, but when we're being honest, they're not being effective because most of what they're doing somebody else could do, but they haven't set their team up to be successful so that they can do it. So we really have to, there's one big change that we have to make to take care of this, and that's what I mentioned earlier. It means having leaders at every level. And for most of our clients, what they really need is like that number two. The director of operations, CEO is a big word. Most of our clients don't really need that, but somebody who handles all the internal stuff so that they can be concerned and really focus on the external stuff. And for a lot of our clients, that's too big of a step. So what they really need right now, I mean, think about, there might not be the budget, they may not be in the right phase of business, the team may not be big enough yet. Still, they need all this stuff that this number two generally would do. So the thing to do right now is hiring that mid-level manager. And I put that in air quotes because I hate that word manager, because think about what managing really means. You manage pieces, you manage something that somebody already gave you, and it leads to the wrong level of thinking. So what we really want to do is we want to take these managers and turn them into leaders who can really take the team to another level, because that is their job. Their job is to get stuff done, but their biggest job is to empower people, lead them, grow them, make sure that they are at their best. That is the job of a quote unquote manager, which we're going to call leaders from here on out. So, when you think about it, most managers are fairly useless. They cost a lot of money, and what they're really doing is they're kind of pushing things around. They rely on other people giving them the strategy. But our system, the way we teach it to our clients, it takes managers and turns them into leaders, or when you hire, you teach them how to be leaders right away. Because what happens at that manager level is people get burned out, they get tired, they get disassociated, they get disenfranchised because they can't really make an impact, because what they do all day is kind of push around paper and delegate, which is telling people what to do, which is pretty ineffective. So you have to start very, very quickly. You want to start at this point where you rethink the role of a manager, because if you don't, you're going to lose profit, and you're going to lose momentum, and you're going to lose people eventually, because you need leaders in your organization. You need to get out of the middle of things so that you can actually do what you're best at, what you love doing, what you're most effective at, and what your business really needs you to do. So this is the case. You need to make yourself over and over and over, so you can interrupt the pattern of being the one who constantly jumps in and does all the stuff that needs to get done. But what you really need is a trusted person in that role. And that leads us to the next step. Because number one, with all of this stuff, if you already have somebody who's at that management level, leadership level, like maybe it's even just a team lead or a department lead or a crew lead, anything like that, you have to let them lead. That means you have to get out of the way, and you have to teach them how to empower their team, because that's the only way this works. The biggest reason for turnover, and there's tons and tons and tons of statistics about that, is that workers feel disconnected from their larger purpose within the organization. So, and that happens because so often the only way people know how to lead is by delegating, which essentially means you're telling people what to do, which means you're giving them these tiny little pieces that they're handling, so they're not thinking about it, they're not getting strategic, they're leaving their brain at home, and they're bored. So delegation without connecting people to the vision and connecting them to the overall company strategy and how they fit into it is completely ineffective, and that's really what makes people leave at a large scale. So your leaders are the ones who connect the dots for your team, because they're in close contact with you, they're in close contact with the team, so they're kind of in the middle of everything. That's why they're the mid-levels, and they become your buffers and your translators. And those are two insanely important responsibilities that you need somebody else to carry in your company. You need those people who buffer between you and the team, and you need those people who translate between you and the team, so that you're not directly responsible, but somebody else is. So this is kind of where, when you already, if you already have your quote unquote managers, I should stop saying that, when you already have managers, right, it's time that you stop giving them busy work. And a lot of times, you know, when we first start having leaders, it's their role has kind of a hybrid of, they're still doers at a certain level, and then they have a percentage of time that's designated to leadership, training, managing, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, the more busy work you give them, the more doer work you give them that other people could do, the less time they're spending on what they're really good at, which is actually getting your people to feel supported and giving them the coaching, the mentoring, the training that they need to do an amazing job. So you have to think about leverage. You're leveraging this one person to get maximum performance out of everybody else. So one thing that happens is, you know, when you think about you as the business owner, your biggest concern probably is, how's the work? And that doesn't really create highly performant people. What we really need to ask is, who are they and how are they at a human level? And that, like, asking that question, how are you, is kind of that super phrase that makes people understand, hey, they are connected to a compassionate leader who cares about them at a human level, and that produces loyalty. And of course, loyal team members are the ones that are much more likely to deliver high performance. So that's everything about letting your leaders actually lead. And then the second thing that comes with that is, to make that possible, you have to trust them. So for you to let go, you have to trust them. For them to be really effective, they have to feel like you trust them. So it has to go both ways. So as we talked about, we're not looking for delegation. We're looking for empowerment, because when you delegate, it basically means you have no trust that this person could take it to the next level and make their own decisions, and you're just giving them these tiny chunk of information. So your mid-level people, they are the best people to do this because they have the best perspective on what's happening on a day-to-day level, because again, they're between you and the people, so they see what's happening on the people level. They see what everybody is struggling, suffering, winning, dealing with, and they have to be able to disseminate that to you, and they also have to disseminate to the team how to be effective within that environment. So executives or business owners oftentimes just want to control from the top down, because that's the easiest way to, they know, because that means when they just tell people exactly what to do, when they make decisions, when they have their sticky little fingers and everything, it means they don't have to take the time or the effort to actually give people the context and the support that they need to do it themselves. But that also means it's always going to be back on your plate. It's never going to change. You're always going to be the bottleneck who keeps this from working. So is it going to take time on the front end? Yes, but the amount of time, stress, suffering, and inefficiency that you'd save on the back end is well worth that. So very, very important to remember that. So for you, that means you have to loosen your grip. You have to build those leaders. And that means you have to figure out what you need to do so that you can trust them. What do they need? Have honest conversations with them, and then help them build the strategies on the people level. Give them that piece to own, that they can build strategies, that they can on their own level, that they can build collaboration within the team, and that they build leaders within their teams that they can trust. So this cascade continues on all different levels of your organization. If you just have one or two, it's easier. If you have multiple levels of organization, well, you're going to have to make sure that all those leaders at every single level do the same thing, because otherwise the buck always stops somewhere, unless this is a very important and emphasized team and you talk it up all the time. So now we have letting the leaders lead. Now we have the trust piece. And then the other thing that has to come that supports it, or that sets all this up, is rethinking the way that you recruit and hire. Because recruiting top talent is getting harder and harder. And for all of our clients, getting those next level leaders in is top priority, because unless they do that, they're always going to be the ones who are stuck in everything. So, maybe you got lucky and you managed to recruit a superstar player, like somebody who's great at what they do, but congratulations, now you have to figure out how to actually keep them. So how to keep them? Well, your mid-level managers, your mid-level leaders are the ones who are best positioned to do both. Actually, the actual hiring and the actual supporting, mentoring, leading, empowering, all that good stuff, because they know exactly at the ground level what the company needs, and then how to actually express that. So, research shows that only like 20% of organizations really help their managers do a great job in leading the team. Most of the time, they're just overwhelmed with everything else, and the team, this people part, just kind of comes way in the back. And when you actually have those managers focused on recruiting, on training, on leadership, it makes a humongous difference in retaining your people. So, when you think about when your leaders own the people strategy, they can make sure that they can drive top results, because they know who they hired, they know what they hired them for, and they're close by to help those people grow and succeed at all levels. So you want to connect them with HR as well, so that HR, if you have an HR person, fractional HR, but when you have both of those positions work together, it always makes sure that you have better hires, because now you have two experts who are looking at the organization from a more holistic level, if you train them right, who both got their eyes on you getting the best people and then supporting them to actually do a great job. And it starts with the interview, because when you think about this, when you have your leaders hire their own people because they know exactly what the business needs at that level, and they can actually speak to that. Well, when you're interviewing people, it's a two-way conversation. You're interviewing them, but they're also interviewing you. And especially with a tight labor market, tight talent market, that piece becomes more and more important, because when you have superstars come in, their interest is in doing an amazing job and making a difference and being successful. And if they don't see that you have your ducks in a row, that you know what you're doing, that your environment is set up for them to be successful, well, guess what? They are not going to work with you. They're not going to sign on. So your leaders are much more able to sell that position, because they know what these people are getting into. They can actually support them. They can speak to that in a much better way, so that they can make the sale much better than you could. So, when you think about that, they're going to speak to what's important at the company right now. They're going to relate it to your vision. They're going to do all the things that you really need to do to have an important hire. But then they're also the ones that can make sure when the new people come in that they feel welcome, that they feel embraced into the culture, that they get onboarded correctly, that they get trained where they need training, that they really get into the organization. And there are tons of studies that show that the faster you can integrate people into your culture, the faster you can soak them up into your culture, the more they feel like that they are exactly in the right place. And when you're honest with yourself, you may be the guardian of your culture, but your leaders are the heart of your culture, because they're the ones who manipulate it to the good every single day. They're the ones, when they do their job right, that make sure that everybody's in the right place at the right time doing the right thing, and that they get what they need so they can do that. And especially, there's a lot of scary stuff happening right now with AI and automation. Your leaders more and more so really become the coaches and the connector and the translators for how people's positions and contributions are changing and how they're most effective. So don't cut yourself short. I know that all of you need leaders at every level in your company so you can succeed going forward. And just imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to worry about all the stuff that you're currently worrying about, and you could truly focus on growing and building your company. So I hope this helps. If you want to know more, we have a brand new training out there that addresses all this in details. Go to bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, and check out the training. Have a fabulous rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.